Hey peeps, viewers, and subscribers, I'm back again. This video is just going to cover some little things I ran into, some things I discovered. I just started doing some 3D printing, and I just thought, this may be a helpful video for you people that are trying it out just like I am starting out. Now, what I like to do is I like to, for every second part I print, I usually will wipe the bed off with some of this. That on the bed. It does clean it. It's 99.9%. It dries really quick. It doesn't leave a residue. Keeps the bed right clean, because I find what happens is some of the filaments seem to have a little bit of a oil or some kind of grease or something in the filament, and I find it gets on the bed space and it kind of makes it slippery, so then it doesn't stick. Now, the other thing I was discovering too is sometimes if you don't have the supporting material set up, what will happen is that sometimes it'll snap off the bed as well. So like, you're better off to add some supporting trees or vice versa, the options on your 3D printer, so that you can avoid them from happening and have to waste of 3D filament. There's no need to waste 3D filament if you don't have to. And another thing I discovered as well, be careful, I've done it by mistake, but put a new roll of vinyl in and didn't realize that you had to change the temperature up on the printer head, and I ended up causing a clog. But that was really the only thing that I ran into. I had to basically, take it out, unclog it, and all that jazz, and take out the head part and take the cover off to unclog it. I was kind of hesitant doing it for the first time. It's just usually something I haven't done before. So usually when I haven't done something before, I'm a little nervous when I'm doing something for the very first time. So that's another printer thought. Now, the other thing as well, I would basically, they have the carbon filter in there, and they do say that the carbon filter is good and it cleans it, but it says don't be exposed to it for a long period of time. But what I'm going to do is, I already have air conditioning. I put my air conditioner on, and I have a vent that vents out my computer to the outside, so it pulls all the air out from the computer to the outside, keep the computer warm. And the other thing, is so it is pulling the air out of the room to the outside, and the air conditioning is taking the air into the room. So anytime I'm 3D printing, I turn the air conditioner on. If not, I'll just turn the ventilation on. It just circulates the air in the room, and when it's not hot in here, because I do have a lot of electronics, video cards, and it does create a little bit of, generates a little heat in here. And I got a projector too as well. I didn't realize it was going to create more heat than my video cards, which I didn't realize at the time of the purchase. That's really the only downfall with a projector. It causes so much heat. So I just don't know. I just thought I figured I'd do just a review, a video on some things I've done and some things I discovered. And I find sometimes when you're doing these prints that I discovered, like sometimes this will happen. This is an example of it lifting off of the surface right there in the corner. The part is still usable, but if I was selling it or selling it to someone, I would have reprinted that and disregard that. But that's only for my personal use, so I'm just putting this on my personal modem / router. So basically that is going to be mounted on the wall. That was one of the parts that I have produced from my 3D printer. And I find some of them too is with the prints, they got them that they put zigzag on them, or they go zigzag one way and zigzag the other way, and it kind of creates a pattern to it. And the other thing is, I find too, is if you print your part down, it leaves that little rough surface like you see on like car dashes and stuff like that. So basically, if you were printing like adapters for like cars and stuff like that, adapter plates to put in the stereos in, you could print the part facing down, and it'll give you all that nice surface on the front, so it will match exactly to the car's interior panels. So that's another thing that I discovered as well. Now, I've made some of these brackets. These ones came out very well. These are adapters. Basically, these are server ears. So basically, I made these so that I purchased a patch panel for my home to run all the network cables and everything, so that if a cable gets damaged, I'm not running a whole new run all the way from the one part of the house to the other. So basically, it just goes right to the patch panel. I have one in my room, and I got one in the living room where everything is centralized. So basically, I got a switch panel in there that I ended up ordering. It said it was 19 inches, and ended up getting it. It was only a 10-inch, and to return it really wasn't an option. So basically, what I did is I just printed off some server ears so that I can make it fit the server thing. So what I'm going to have to do is I got to use two of these ones. I can't use the small ones. I just printed them off anyway. I'm going to probably sell them and get rid of them, but basically it was a bunch that came with it. I could have probably just printed these, but I was thinking that I may need one of them. But when I measured these, I'm going to have to use two of these instead of one of them and one of these. So I'm going to have to use that. So basically I printed that first, then ended up discovering I didn't need it, and then I had to print these two. So basically this is the one here. I may not need these tabs. I may just cut it with a jigsaw so that these will be the right length, and then I'll just have to mount it by drilling out two individual holes. Now these are ones that were obviously someone that made. I just figured it was easier just to print them than trying to make them, and basically I can basically just use them that way. Now these two have the mounts on the side. I got to see if the switch panel will allow me to mount these 4 screws. So I may not even have to cut this at all. We'll see if these are wide enough to make up for the 19 inches. So that's another product right there that I printed. Came out very well. These were printed like that, standing up. Didn't add no support or anything to them. So basically it's probably pretty well safe to print them that way. But I would normally, the way I've been printing things lately, I would put the piece that got the biggest flat on the whole part. You're better off to put that right on the bed, so it just prints right on the bed. There's more surface stuck to your bed so that it doesn't pop off when you're cutting it. And then what happens is you get a big ball of thread all over the plastic, cobweb kind of stuff all over the place, and and it's even possible you can clog your head as well. So that's basically some things. And other things that I discovered, I printed this recently to hold my batteries in. So this is a 2-part print. So I got one printed in gray and one printed in green, and the reason why I wanted the green is because then it's basically the color of rechargeable batteries. So that's why I went with the green, and then I went with the green, and then I inserted the gray inside instead of the green, so then I got a 2-tone color. So basically it holds up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 batteries. So I got 2 of these printed because I got I have 48 batteries. There's 2 batteries in each device I have in all my remotes and Xbox controllers. So basically I have an extra set of batteries for everything I have. And you know, I started purchasing some of the Amazon basic rechargeable batteries, and they're a pretty good price, so I recommend that. Now, another thing as well that I came across, I noticed sometimes if you don't have it, you don't pre-dry the material, sometimes what will happen is it may not print a piece of that plastic on the part you're making, and it'll kind of leave a groove in the part. So it's another thing you got to be concerned about. Now, another thing is as well, I printed those two battery things at once. You're probably better off to print them individually, because what happens is, this is what I discovered too as well. So let's say if you have two parts in the machine, and let's say if it's not done with the other part and it stops, and it just prints for a long while, and then it comes back to that part. What's going to happen is you're going to have a spot where the material is already is completely dry, and then it leaves like a visual line where the 3D printer left off to. So if you're not concerned about that or worried about that, then you don't have to print it individually. Just do the two parts on the bed together. So that was another thing that I discovered that you should be aware of. Now the other thing is when you use the supporting trees and stuff like that, you are going to need some little files to file your parts in that and file off those little parts, and you need like a deburr tool that deburrs it. I got some stuff coming, some accessories for the 3D printer and such. So basically that's where I'm gonna basically go. I'm going to get all those tools so that when I'm done with the parts I can clean them up a little bit, some little small files and stuff like that. And another good thing to print when you are starting to print, I know my 3D printer is on my dresser. It's the only place I can really put it, and you really can't access the back of it all the time. It'd be kind of hard to pull it around and empty the bin all the time. So I would probably suggest you printing a 3D printer chute for your access vinyl, so that it basically puts it to the side of the 3D printer, so you don't have to be turning the 3D printer around all the time. And this comes in two pieces, so that just clicks in there and goes in there, and then all your scrap falls into the bin here, and you just take the bin off, empty it in the garbage can, and put it back in and continue on. So that would be a part that I probably would suggest printing for your Anycubic. So basically that's another thing that that I printed recently that came out really well. Now see, and there's the other part. Here's a prime example of one that didn't come out right. I went and printed it by standing it up like this, and that caused a problem because the supporting trees that held up the part ended up popping off the bed because I didn't clean the bed before I did the part. So that's I'd stress on that as much as possible, that make sure that you do clean off your bed before you're making all these parts, so that you can prevent that from happening. I figure I was going to have some problems with it at some point. Like it's a little bit of a learning curve. So I just thought maybe give you some tips that you won't have to experience the same thing, and you won't have to waste as much the same amount of time that I have. And the other thing too is as well, always check on your 3D printer's website on the marketplace. They do have actual bed scrapers, tools, and stuff that you can print for your 3D printer. And upgrades like that, for example, that chute I showed you, you can actually get a HEPA filter print as well. They put a HEPA filter printer in there instead of a carbon filter, so that basically it filters both, and you can leave the carbon filter in. There's different ones. There's one that you take the carbon filter out all together, you put the HEPA filter in, and the other one is you put the carbon filter and you put the HEPA filter, you print a little cartridge, that slot that you put the filter in, that it attaches to the back, so then you have double the filtration. Now it's another thing that I noticed now. The other thing I noticed as well, you can print guides that you put in your cage, your hopper, that you can with your spools, so there's less chance that they tangle up and such. So I did go that route. I printed some of them off. That's another little great tip that I discovered. Now you gotta be careful with some of the parts when you're snapping the tree stuff off. You could break your part. So basically sometimes you may have to use like a an X-Acto knife to kind of put it down, to put the X-Acto knife down and then go push up so that it pops off the part and there's less chance you're going to break it. So that's another thing that I've noticed so far. Now, basically with my 3D printer, once you do your prints, it saves the print right on your 3D printer, so that you don't have to go back all the time and reload them on the computer. Now, I'm assuming there's probably a certain amount of storage space that you can probably put on there, and if you set up the cloud too as well, you can just do it directly from the cloud, so then you just print them all the time. Then you're just not using the computer as much, because then you don't have to go in and load all those files. The files are already on the 3D printer. In the print section, you hit start print, and it'll show all your previous prints that you did if you want to reprint it again, which I thought was a pretty good idea. Like, that was a very good idea on their part. But other than that, that's the only thoughts I have at the moment. The only other thing I would probably suggest, plan on where you're putting your 3D printer so you have easy access to it. I really don't have easy access to it. I was planning on putting some wheels on my dresser at some point with some lock wheels. I just didn't get around to that yet. So, and make sure you're putting your 3D printer on a solid base, because if you have a disc that's kind of wobbly, your 3D printer is going to have it all over the place. And the other thing, if your desk falls apart, your 3D printer, all that money you spent is going to fall on the floor. So make sure you put it on a real sturdy base, that you don't have to worry about your 3D printer coming off of what it's sitting on. Now, the other thing that I discovered as well, and I just thought of, is that when you do a certain print job, your bed doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. So you have to go into your axis settings in your 3D printer, and then you have to press the button 4 or 5 times for it to return right down to the bottom. So if you prefer to have it down at the bottom, you can do that. And the other benefit too as well, you can raise the bed, because what happens is there's a lot of debris that builds up in the bottom of the 3D printer that you have to clean up every so often. It'll like pop stuff under there by itself, and then you have to clean it out every once in a while. So that was another thing that I noticed that you should keep an eye on. Wipe your 3D printer down, clean it down every time you use it. The more you take care of it, the better, the longer it'll last, and you won't have to purchase it as quick. And try to avoid doing printer clogs. If you get some printer clogs, it's very possible you could ruin your nozzle, and then you have to replace your nozzle as well. And there's different nozzles that you can purchase with upgrades as well, if you're planning on printing different materials. Like in the future, I'd like to start printing some carbon fiber parts and stuff like that. That's made out of carbon fiber, and it does leave a carbon fiber pattern. So that would be something that I'll be doing in the future. I probably have to change my nozzle out to a different one. And you can upgrade your nozzles to ceramic, copper. There's all different kinds. There's carbon steel ones and stuff like that. They're all for like certain specific things. But other than that, that's all I can think of at the moment. When I do come across some other things in the future, I will go over them, and have some videos in the future. We'll just keep going over different things, certain things I experienced with my 3D printer, and some other things that I'll go through. And if you take computers apart or build computers, you should be more than capable of taking your 3D printer apart to clean out a printer clog. It's not that hard, but do take your time. Don't rush it. There is a lot of small parts in that printer head that can be broken very easy, like small wires and stuff like that. So you don't want to be buying extra parts if you don't have to. So just take your time when you're doing it. Don't rush it. If you don't have the time to do it that day, just don't do it. Just find another day when you do have some free time, so you can allot some time for it, so that if you do come across something, it'll take you some time to get that all straightened away. So you don't really want to rush into things when you're putting it back together when you're cleaning out a clog. Now, that is everything I have this evening. Hit like, subscribe, and comment. Don't be afraid to comment. And hit that bell button at the bottom so that when there's new content being submitted, you'll be notified when the new content is out so that you can watch my new content. And I do thank you for your support. And you have yourself a fantastic day. Gadget signing out, and see you all on the flip side.